Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver, starring Sophia Boutella, G.B.M.H, Ed Skrein, Michael Huisman, Carrie Elways, and Anthony Hopkins, directed by Zack Snyder. Welcome back to Zack Snyder after I reviewed Rebel Moon Part 1, and now I'm here for Part 2. And what is it with me in doing Part 1s first before I do Part 2s? I don't know. That seems to be a bad coincidence for me, I must say. But let's just say that after the first one, I was not too excited for this movie. If you saw my review of the first one, you would know why. Let's get into this movie. We get another boring narration by Jimmy, returning voice of Anthony Hopkins, as I can't make sense of this pile of crap, and already I'm calling this a pile of crap, and the visuals are good to look at, but it doesn't save my opinion of the movie in general, as the bad guys that are soldiers awakens Admiral Atticus Noble, returned by Ed Skrein, as they make him rest until the day he can continue what he fights for. And the score is too damn dramatic from start to finish. I mean, my god. Cora, returned by Sophia Boutella, returns with Gunner, returned by Michael Huisman, and their warriors Titus, returned by Jimon Hounsou, Nemesis, and some others who do not matter, as I don't give a damn about any of these characters, as this is bad writing by director Zack Snyder, as well as directing as well. So what am I talking about? But they get back to the village Cora and Gunner came from, as everyone is hiding from the soldiers in space, and Cora says Admiral Noble is dead until Eris comes in and says the soldier from space will be there in 5 days. And these are very bad characters. Titus and the other warriors teach the villagers how to fight the soldiers in space, and a day after they arrive at the village, as Cora and Gunner sleep together, as Cora brings up the story of how she killed Princess Isa, as well as her mother and father, the king and queen, as the king is played by Carrie Elways, and another wasted role, and the queen played by Rianne Reese, are killed after Isa died, as she says she forgives Cora, and she says don't forgive me, as her commanding officer blames Cora for the death of the king and queen and the princess, as she runs out of there to live a different life. And the flashbacks, as well as the acting in this flashback, is so bad. And it's badly told. I can't believe this is the best Zack Snyder can do, as none of this is making sense to me. The next morning comes, and the villagers begin their training with Admiral Noble, wanting to continue to do his work. And he wants to go after the Scargiver, who happens to be Cora, while some kids play around with Nemesis until she wakes up, as she's not amused, and neither am I, as the writing by Zack Snyder is horrible, as it makes absolutely no sense, as the movie didn't engage me, but it bored me a bit more than the first half of the story, as the score in both stories is again way too damn dramatic. And there was a slow motion shot on the boat with some workers moving some bags, and again, it was unnecessary. Like, just stop it, Snyder. After his take on Justice League, I'm super tired of it, while Snyder's career has a very few good movies in his resume, but the rest is a bunch of crap. Mills gives the warriors a gift, even Cora and Gunner, and what was the point of this scene? I don't know, and I don't really care, as I'll repeatedly say it for half the show, as the editing is choppy at times. It was a headache. Hopefully I'll never review any of the Michael frickin' Bay stuff, because after the first two Bad Boys and the 5 of his Transformers films, I'm done with hacks, like as director Zack Snyder is one of them, as is Michael frickin' Bay and M. Night Shyamalan, which he's got a movie coming out in August. I'm not looking forward to it, but we'll see. That spoils a hell of a lot. They train again the next day with weapons, as the first day didn't involve weapons whatsoever, like rocket launchers, swords, and guns, and I'm just going to say it now. This is one of Zack Snyder's worst movies with the first part of the story. But it's not the worst like Madam Web, but it's almost there, as I just don't care at all about this movie. Titus hears something like a confession and asks everyone to tell the truth about their past, for example, his early days of how he got his team killed, and how one of the warriors was saved by Ray Fisher. And remember, he got I thought he got killed in the last movie. For the life of me, it's all over the place. I don't understand what the hell is going on. As this Rebel Moon, is this Rebel Moon for dummies? Like, it wasn't brought up in the first movie because I guess what? It was brought up at one point in the last movie, as this plot is so uneven. And come on, I'm not stupid. I know what was brought up last time, and you know what I don't care, as I didn't care for this last movie, and I don't care for this movie whatsoever. As this confession flashback scenes are so damn boring. Like, this movie is long enough at 2 hours and 3 minutes. Zack Snyder, trim some of this crap, because I don't care about any of their origins, as I don't care for these characters at all. And what doesn't help is the score by Tom Holkenberg's dramatic score. And I got the impression that Zack Snyder took control of the score of this movie. After the confession, someone says the village is ready to fight against the soldiers in space, as Cora goes to Jimmy before the soldiers in space arrive on the planet, or to either kill or capture the villagers, as it was not clear at the beginning of the movie where they wanted soldiers, but it was clear in the beginning of the first story that they wanted it. But after how the first movie ended, I don't know what Admiral Noble wants except for the Scargiver, as she and Gunner walk up to him, and Gunner stays halfway while Cora negotiates with Admiral Noble, and she almost does what Gunner, and she almost does until Gunner blows up their ship, which is an unnecessary thing to do to make an action sequence, because, and I just want to remind people, there's no action in the first hour of the movie, and by the second hour, it's just more headache worthy, as I just got bored in both the 2 hours I viewed of this film. Like, it's irritating to me. The action begins as Nemesis are fighting some soldiers, as she almost dies until the boy that teased her at one point saves her life when he's almost killed, and Nemesis saves his life. But unfortunately, she dies, and I just don't care at this point. While Millis gets in the fight, as she's almost killed until Eris saves her life, and Admiral Noble eventually finds a ship and gets out of the planet, as he fights a villager who isn't strong enough to fight Admiral Noble, and he gets killed off, the villager I mean, as Cora and Gunner go to their ship and they pretend to be one of the soldiers, as well as pretending their ship has smoked, and they get on their ship just like a snap of a finger, and the soldiers control the ship, which I guess is a good idea to get on the enemy ship that way, but at the same time, it's a suicide mission. So that makes them idiots at this point. The Warriors are still fighting at this point, and I'm bored, as this isn't exciting me nor is it entertaining me, but I'm just tired of this movie, and I'm checked out at this point. And this is when I'm thinking, this is the worst Zack Snyder has ever been with these two movies, as the villagers win the battle, and I'm just done with it. As they almost get killed by a bigger gun, and again, this score, come on. Cora, and Gunner get checked by the medical area as they start sneaking around the ship of the bad guys and start planting bombs everywhere, including the core of the ship, which made me get a Return to the Jedi callback or flashback, where they shoot the shielded core of the Death Star, as that was giving me a flashback to that film. But Return to the Jedi, obviously a much better film than this piece of crap, as Cora shoots the guards and the workers of the engine room dead, as Admiral Noble goes to Cora, as this movie is making me dizzy with the shaky cam at this point. Jesus, tone it down, Zach. The villagers with Titus and other warriors are losing the battle as they keep fighting until Jimmy comes in and saves their asses by shooting all the soldiers dead and blows up their tanks. And isn't that just the convenient cliche? Because it felt it. Admiral Noble tries to find Cora as the ships almost fire their giant gun at the village. But luckily, it doesn't, thanks to Cora encountering and distracting Admiral Noble, as Cora blows it up by planting bombs on the core, and Gunner shoots the soldiers standing next to Admiral Noble. And the second round of Cora versus Admiral Noble begins while the ship is going down, and I can't see who's beating up on who, as there's so much shaky cam in this scene. I was getting annoyed. And Gunner stabs Admiral Noble, and Noble kills Gunner until he eventually dies. And Cora gets Gunner in their own ship and gets out of there while Admiral Noble dies at this point. And when they get back down to their own planet, Gunner suffocates while Cora tries to keep him alive, but he unfortunately dies as ships of the good guys shoot down the fighter jets and blows up the other bad ships. And as they save the day and they win the battle with the villagers and they cremate Gunner, and I thought, who cares at this point? Jesus. For Cora, but come on. Except for Cora. But come on. I'm not buying the acting at this point. And why should I? And Cora said she didn't tell anyone except for a dead Gunner about how she killed Princess Isa. And we hear she's alive, and they set up a sequel about Cora versus Princess Isa and the warriors as well as the villagers and Jimmy. And then I thought, oh God, we're getting a sequel to the story I don't like as credits roll. And this climax was a pain in my ass, as it was one of the worst I've seen besides Madam Web, and I don't want a sequel, and I'll explain why on my rating. Now it's time for my rating. I'll give this movie a 1.2 out of 10. This isn't as worse than Madam Web, but this is the worst movie in Zack Snyder's filmography, as well as the first half of the story, as the characters are developed so poorly, as I don't give a damn about any of them, as the score by Tom Holkenberger is way too dramatic, as I get the feeling Zack Snyder was in control of the score, and I hate this whole story scores from start to finish. The writing in this made absolutely no sense, as the acting in this entire movie is horrible, and I can't believe Zack Snyder has gone down to the dumpster like M. Night Shyamalan has done sometimes in his career, as he only has a few good movies, but the rest is a bunch of crap. And this is a complete headache by Zack Snyder, but don't get me wrong, the visuals look good, but not great in my opinion. The plot is very uneven, despite this is the second of the two parts, as the story is very unnecessary to be told by Snyder, and he does that stupid slow motion thing a few times in this movie, as that was again annoying after his take on Justice League, as Zack Snyder is a director who's a hack, like M. Night Shyamalan, which he's got a movie coming in August. I'm going to just say it now. The trailer spoiled it. And Michael freaking Bay. And this is the strongest non-recommendation in Zack Snyder's filmography, as these two movies are the worst of his yet to date. And I don't care about this movie whatsoever. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for returning to Zack Snyder. And until he makes another movie, God help me.